Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. Just coming straight off of Comic-Con in Boston for 2017. Had an awesome time. There was like 1 million people there, and there was tons of cosplay and all kinds of great costumes and so much fun. All kinds of awesome comic book artists, a lot of celebrity guests from comic book TV shows and movies. Awesome stuff. Check this out. I got this signed by the artist J. Lee. That's badass, right? I also got this book signed by John Romita Jr. Awesome Spider-Man artist, and he's worked on many of the major. Check out Wolverine there. Badass, right? You should have seen the line. It was quite a line to wait for him. I guess it's kind of a big deal in the comic book world. But anyway, that inspired me to do some reviews of comic book movies. And I'm going to start with my favorite character in the history of comics. And that is Spider-Man. And I'm going to talk about the first Spider-Man movie, and that is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man from 2002, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, and Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. And what a great way to establish the origins of Spider-Man. I know by now it's kind of like old hat. We've seen the origins in the comic, we've seen it in a bunch of the original TV series back in the 70s. We've seen it in all the different incarnations of the cartoon. But I think this run really established the origins the best out of any of them. And I really feel that they handled it well with great emotion, and it really sends a powerful message about, with great power comes great responsibility. That classic line there from Spider-Man lore. I just love how they, and it's very, very faithful to the comic when it comes to that. We meet Peter Parker as a teenager, even though Tobey Maguire looks like he's about 25. There's a lot of funny stuff, like, when the school bus is taking off without him, and he's like running to catch it. Stop the bus! And all the bullies are picking on him, He's a real geeky kid, and Tobey Maguire does pull off that real well, I must say. He is a dweeb, and he plays that part well. I think probably better than any of the incarnations of Spider-Man yet. And one thing I love about the Sam Raimi direction is he really handles the action awesome. We've seen him do crazy, wild action in the Evil Dead films, of course, and he does bring that in-your-face style craziness to Spider-Man when it comes to like the Green Goblin scenes. They're excellently handled and amazingly directed, and and there's real emotion behind it too when the fight scenes between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin are awesome. Like brutal, like are in your face, man. It's real slobber knocker stuff. Getting back to the origins, we all know, Peter Parker gets bitten by the radioactive spider in science class because he's a science geek, and he gets bitten by the radioactive spider. Actually, in this movie, it's more like they go to visit like a science museum, and one of the spiders on display gets out of the case and bites him, and Spider-Man is born. And it's really cool how they show the transformation. You see his cells inside his body change, and he gets all jacked up. He's looking in the mirror. Yeah, there's definitely a change here. He's all ripped. I love the scene when he takes off his glasses and he's putting the glasses on makes me not see a damn thing, but without them I see 100%. And then they They finally show him, climbing the walls and, testing out his powers. And in this film, he actually shoots the web straight from his wrist, so it's almost like some kind of, like a mutation, kind of, in a way, from the spider bite. Which I did think was cool. That was something different. Yeah, it does. A lot of fans get pissed off about that because it takes away a little bit of the Peter Parker science nerd. He's a scientist, and in the comics he developed the web shooters, and that was kind of a cool like tech thing, But I think it makes a lot of sense that way. I think it's really cool. It's definitely a different kind of take. We've already seen the other stuff, so this was something different, and I think it really adds to it for the cinematic purposes. And you see a lot of fun stuff with Peter playing around with his powers. He like swings for a building, and he like crashes into the wall and stuff. A lot of good funny stuff. I will say one thing about the downside of being a comic fan growing up as a child, and I read Spider-Man like nonstop. I read every Spider-Man comic, like Amazing Spider-Man, The Web of Spider-Man, The Spectacular Spider-Man, all those. I had them all. And I know a lot about the history of, of the past of Spider-Man, and one thing that really stands out like a sore thumb in this movie is that Tobey Maguire, when he's Spider-Man, there's not a lot of quipping going on, and that's like really Spider-Man to me, Yeah, Peter Parker is geeky and all that, and they nail that in the movie, but what they don't get right in the movie is Spider-Man's character. When he's quipping, ranking out the villains and making fun of them and just showing his real wit. And you don't see that in this movie, and I think that's a big chunk that's missing from it. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic movie, and it really handles the origins well. Rosemary Harris plays Aunt May to perfection. She's the very vision of Aunt May that we see from the comics. She just nails it. And she's definitely that mother figure in Peter Parker's life who doesn't have his parents. So she definitely is the mother figure. She watches him over. She's very overprotective. And she doesn't have a clue what's going on with Peter. She just thinks a lot of weird stuff's going on. What's wrong with you, Peter? But behind the scenes, he's Spider-Man tackling the evil villain known as the Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe, which I love it. A lot of people might think, oh, he's over the top and campy, but I love that. That's very comic book to me. He's definitely the definition of a comic book villain. Evil, menacing. I absolutely love that scene when he's looking in the mirror, and he gives that evil smile and laugh, and I'm like, whoa, it's scary. And he's really scary as the Green Goblin, I'm telling you. Love it. I love it. I love William Dafoe's portrayal of the Green Goblin. To me, that's the best Spider-Man villain in the history of comics, and the best portrayal so far of an actor in the Spider-Man films as far as a villain, as far as I'm concerned. But everyone talks about Doc Ock and Spider-Man 2, but I've never been a big fan of Doc Ock personally in the comics and in the movie, really, But it is what it is. Me, it's Green Goblin, and I love William Dafoe's portrayal. And another great thing about the movie is it's the great supporting cast. You got James Franco as Harry Osborn, Peter's best friend, and he does an excellent job. And of course you got Kirsten Dunst as the love of Peter's life, Mary Jane, the legendary Mary Jane. And she's played to perfection in the first film. And I love that little, the chemistry between Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst is it's definitely there. It's very playful, it's very romantic, and there's a lot of romance in this movie. A girl can love it, It's got elements of a chick flick in there. Kind of reminds me of like the Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman. It's definitely got that romance in there, and that's a big part of it, especially when you see Spider-Man and they do that famous upside down kiss. It's classic. It's fun. It's romantic. I love it. It's very playful. And I just love how Peter battles with that fact that, you know, she can't really get that close to her, because if the villains find out who she is and that she's tied to Peter Parker, and if they find out who he is, they'll go after her and kill her family, you know. There's always been that those inner demons inside Peter Parker, and they handle that really well. And it's definitely directed brilliantly by Sam Raimi. So I gotta say, my favorite of the Sam Raimi trilogy is the original Spider-Man. That's right, to me, it's the best. Yeah, there may be a little campiness, you know, with the, you know, the whole bone saw's ready when you get the Macho Man in there as the wrestler. There's a lot of silly stuff in there too, like the lady in the street in New York City playing the violin, playing the Spider-Man theme song, Spider-Man. There's a lot of goofiness like that, and stuff when you see like the citizens of New York City. Oh, if you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with us. It's like there's a little bit of cheesiness, definitely. But that's a lot of that is Sam Raimi's style, you know. Look at the Evil Dead films. There's a lot of silliness in that, but there's a lot of greatness in those films too, just like there is in this film. So definitely, if you haven't seen it by now, which I'm sure pretty much everybody has, run and buy Spider-Man, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Willem Dafoe, and directed by the great Sam Raimi. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Sci-Fi Corner. Tune in and blast off.